Hey there, Perennial Pride listeners. Thanks for joining me on this podcast. Really excited today. Coming on myself. Just had an interesting week and getting ready to spend some time with family. So super excited. But I figure I'd come on and share a topic that's kind of been brewing inside my head, and certainly sharing more with others, and thought it'd be helpful for you because, I think people who are listening to this podcast, or you've got some desires for more freedom and control of life, and certainly wealth too. It's one aspect of it, but we want freedom in our lives in general. And I continue to use a word that my wife hates, but it has a utility. It's leverage in all areas of our lives. We sometimes can get so wrapped up in trying to do everything ourselves. And I used to suffer from that often. I was always trying to say I could figure these things out, or, I can do it better than someone else. And the reality is that there's only certain things that I'm really gifted and good at and enjoy doing, and leveraging other resources or other people's skills or whatever can really help boost my success in whatever I'm trying to do in my life. And that's what really leverage helps to do. And we can do it in a whole host of ways. And it can help us obviously achieve our goals, but bring us kind of freedom in our lives to maybe even focus on what we want to do more of. So it's really important to kind of take a broader view of it. And there's a financial arm to it, of course, and we'll talk about that, but it can serve us in a whole host of different ways. And so I just want to share a bit in my mind, kind of 5 big areas of this, and we can leverage it in essentially all areas of our lives, and I'll certainly apply it to our financial life for sure. So the first area that I want to cover, and frankly, this is an analogy I shared with folks in my networking group I belong to, and one of our colleagues in the group was a collegiate pole vaulter, and I said, when I first thought about it, I said, that's the epitome of leverage, because I could either do the high jump, where I'm just using my own abilities to jump over a bar, right? And you take a running start, as anyone's ever seen it, and you jump it over, you kind of go head first and over, right? And that's typically what we see for high jumpers. But a pole vaulter takes a different approach. They got this big, long pole that they're using to stick into this hole here and boost themselves up so they can go even higher. And that's really the epitome of leverage. They're using that sort of lever to get them to be able to jump over higher level heights. And so when I looked at it, it's interesting. The world record for high jump is just a little bit over 8 feet. So pretty impressive, amazing that maybe a 6-foot man can jump 8 feet and over a bar. But when you look at what a pole vaulter can do, now you add the element of this long pole, they can actually, the world record is over 20 feet. So over 2.5 times what you could do on your own. And I said, that was a great analogy on how to use leverage in a way to help you exceed in anything, right? And certainly in your finances. So just sorry for that side tangent, but I thought it was a really good way to illustrate how leverage can really work. And so when we think about leverage in our lives, and certainly our finances, one area that I think is key is relationships and connections. We all know how important it is to have a strong network. There's this concept, you're the average of the 5 people around you, right? You kind of gravitate to there. So if you're in a bad situation, you're gonna go that way. But if you're in a really good one and people are pushing each other and striving for more, it's gonna kind of pull you in for the ride like a wave. And so it's really important to understand who you're surrounding yourselves with, because they're gonna either lift you up or bring you down. And so you always try to find the right types of people that connect with you and give you energy and really push you to become bigger and better and challenge you in an honest way, right? We get so tempted to maybe not offend people or make them feel bad, but if you're around people that genuinely want to see you succeed, they're able to tell you the truth and say when you did something that didn't make sense or was wrong, but but offer constructive ways to make you grow and become better. Because that's what we're here part of this earth to do, is continue to grow and become more of ourselves, and be better. And we need sometimes other people around us to help us, and certainly in a business standpoint. And I've kind of learned how important it is to connect with other people, because I only am exposed to certain things, and they see things that I will never see, and they have different experiences than I have. And so gathering those and trying to understand them for my own purpose and goals are important, because I only have my own self to as a reference point, and understanding where other people have maybe gained some expertise or have built up their own networks. You can leverage their networks as well. So it's really it can be very expansive in that way, but it just requires some effort and work. No one likes the term networking, but it does work. It's a very strong way to build out and get around people that are like you, share same values, and hopefully help each other grow and become better. And I've gotten through my even financial life just meeting so many different advisors, mentors, different types of people in different areas of estate planning or unique types of investments. I mean, the expansiveness of that only happened because I was willing to get out there and network and meet other people, and be open to learning, which I know is difficult to do in our time-starved world, but key, which we'll get into that in a second. So that's number one, relationships, your network connections. Number two is to leverage your skills and talents, right? We are all gifted in our own unique way. And sometimes we have to kind of sort of spend some time with ourselves to recognize what it is that we enjoy doing, what we are naturally gifted at doing more than others. And you just have to pay attention to it. And there's certain things, just the way you operate, that just bring you life and bring you energy and doesn't drain you. Like sometimes you can sit there all day doing it, those sorts of things. So it's really important for people to understand what it is that they are just naturally drawn to, and have a skill set that is going to be better than most. And, we think about it as a football team or any team sport. Everyone's got kind of their roles, and there are certain skills that people leverage, and you kind of try to stay in that lane, because the more you start, that idea, you got to build up your weaknesses. Now, there is something to be said around maybe building up to some level of proficiency that you need, but in the same respect, you probably get more benefit out of focusing on the areas that you are just great at and you enjoy doing, and you just do it better than most, and then maybe filling gaps with others that maybe have skills and talents you don't have. And so leveraging your own skills and talents, but leveraging the skills and talents of others is really key. In my world, I just always been great at being analytical and looking deeper, and I'll research the heck out of something, because it just, I have that perfectionist mind sometimes, which gets me into trouble, is like to get it right every single time and be perfect. Well, that's just not reality, but it helps drive me to kind of test things out and get more detailed. And so that's an area of strength of mine. And you just got to figure that for yourself and put yourself in positions to leverage those skills and talents as much as possible. And you're likely going to provide a massive value to those around you in your job, your business, and really help you shine. And then you can complement that with others around you. So the third area is our time. We got to leverage our time, right? Time is our scarcest resource. And we know this, that we don't know when that time will be up. I'm grateful for each and every day I wake up, because I don't know if I'll have another day or hopefully another 50 years. That's what my hope is, but you don't know. So you got to leverage your time and spend it wisely. And this is really important to recognize, splitting it across what you do in your personal and business and work lives, like to really make sure that you're spending it in the ways that are best serving you and what you're trying to become in this world and the goals you have in your life, and making sure and scrutinizing it, because that clock is ticking, like I said, and it is our scarcest resource. So how do I use it to our maximum ability? And it doesn't always mean I got to be working all the time. We know how important it is to get some rest and get some mental relaxation and even meditation, do things for ourselves. We got to have that to give us to recharge or reboot. Can't just work 24 hours a day. I mean, obviously we got to sleep too and eat and all those things to take care of ourselves. So we just got to manage that and ensure that where we're spending our time are on the most important things, based on what we value and what we're trying to achieve. And so so personally, I've just had to build a habit to really structure the weeks to say, what are the most important things to do this week that I want to get accomplished, and then start to put some time on the calendar for them. Because if I don't put them on, they can easily slip, right? Especially things that are hard, right? Things that are hard are the ones we probably want to push off as much as possible, but we got to get those on the docket first and force ourselves to work at them and spend some dedicated time to get them done, because they're going to move us faster, right, in the areas that are important for us. But just like for human nature wise, I'll defer it, right? I'll kind of procrastinate, and I'll never get to them. And those things that I'm hoping to achieve will take way longer than they should be, because I'm not allocating my time and respecting that. And I'm also leveraging time from others. So for other people's skills, like I mentioned before, but their time too to help me, right? Because I can't do it all myself. It's impossible if you're trying, especially if you're building a business or you're even raising a family. I mean, you can't do that all by yourself. You need help sometimes. And so that's where you have to go delegate and leverage someone else's time, right? They can do these things for you. Maybe they're better skilled at it. So let them take care of it, and you stay in your lane, they stay in theirs. And it's a harmonious sort of complement to work together, and you can do a lot more in a short amount of time. And the last part of that is really to think about, what can you eliminate from your world? What are things that are not serving you and taking away your time? Whether it's endless amounts on social media, whatever the case may be, and limit it or eliminate it completely, so that you can really hyper focus on the things that matter, and really put that on the calendar, and really guard your time, because it is very, very precious. So the fourth area to leverage is education and growth. And this is leveraging learning opportunities. And it could come in the form of formal education, right? Or it could be going to masterminds, or going to networking events, or seminars, or things of that nature. But spending time investing in yourself, your number one asset. And we harp on this all the time. We are our number one assets. People want to talk about their house or their stock portfolio or whatever as their number one asset. Well, it's an investment, but it's not your number one asset. Your ability to create and innovate and produce on this world is your number one asset. And we have to continue to grow that. Just like a tree doesn't stop growing. Well, maybe they do at some point, but they're always seemingly growing to as far as they can get to. It's just unique to humans that we don't always strive for that, right? We'll stop short and we say, we've learned everything we need to learn. We've arrived at that stage that we know everything. So no point in learning anymore. Well, obviously, I think you're actually on a slow road to dying at that point. And so I'm really a big advocate of continually to stay educated, grow, learn, become bigger and better each and every day and year you're on this earth. That's part of our job, and it helps us to serve the people around us better and provide more to our communities and to the world. And we owe it to ourselves to continue to grow and learn. So spending some dollars and your time to focus on growing, that could be as simple as reading a certain amount a day, just to stay on top of a topic, or going back to a class, or certainly attending a conference. I mean, those are really great in my mind learning opportunities, because you're immersed in it. You're kind of forced into the environment, as opposed to your normal working hours at home or on the road. Like, you kind of get into a rhythm of working and you forget about learning. And we got to do that to become more valuable. And so we leverage that to produce more and be able to expand even our investment world. Like, most people have come accustomed to certain areas of investment, say the stock market, and that's all they know. And this is where you're supposed to invest. Well, we know in reality, there's a whole host of areas to invest in that most people may never enter, whether it be real estate or starting your own business or doing private lending, whatever the situation. There's a host of areas to get into, but it requires you learn more about it so you can get more comfortable with it, and it will ultimately reduce your risk and hopefully make you more money and give you that more time, money, freedom that we all seek. So the last area is one I think in terms of the financial world is what most people think about for leverage is using other people's money, right? There's that concept of OPM and you hear from Robert Kiyosaki often, right? He's always taken on debt, and some people don't like debt. That causes people to be concerned, and so you do have to be smart with it. It's good debt and there's bad debt. Obviously, the bad debt we want to avoid that, especially on consumptive sort of things. But good debt can be very beneficial to building your wealth if used properly, right? And this is where we use the IBC, infinite banking or family banking sort of environment to store cash and then have a guaranteed financing source that we can deploy at the same time to use for profitable cash flowing investments that bring money back to us, right? Not later, but now. And so that's just one strategy to help leverage our dollars a little bit more and actually use someone else's money to grow our wealth. The other side of this too is the IRS, right? The IRS is obviously, most people don't have probably a positive feeling towards the IRS. I mean, the tax code was supposed to be temporary, but evidently it's not. But it ballooned into this crazy amount of pages. I don't remember what it is now, but it's huge amount of pages. But most of the pages on there are centered around not how to pay tax, but actually how to avoid them by following incentives that are created by the government. And they obviously have goals around the economy and what they want to create, and they can't all do it themselves, right? They can't create all the jobs in the world. They can't build all the buildings and house people. So they have all these incentives built in there. So you can leverage the tax code and have the IRS help you invest. And that's the areas that people are, could benefit from learning about and say, how can you partner with the IRS in a positive way? And there was one book by Tom Wheelwright I thought was great. One was Tax-Free Wealth, but then there's the 7 investments that the government basically wants you to make, right? They want to, and they're going to help support you and reduce the risk of it because they'll give you tax breaks for it, and so you can pursue those areas once you learn them. So then you can hopefully build wealth as well as reduce some of your taxes at the same time. So those are areas you can leverage their money, right? And they're not doing it for charity. They're obviously trying to build the economy, and they'll eventually get their tax money anyway if you're profitable. So in the end, it works out for them. But as a consumer, as we're building our wealth, the fewer taxes we actually have to pay, the more we get to keep, and the more wealth we can build. It's just simple math, right? It's that adage. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. And keeping more of it and creating cash flow, more consistent cash flow, actually in the end gives you more freedom to choose what you want to do. Imagine the world of having enough cash flow that covers your basic expenses, right? And covers your life. And then what would you do? You have that question some people raise, like, if money was no object, how would you spend your time? What would you do? So many people are, and you may be one of them who's listening, like, that's just not feasible. Well, it's not going to be feasible overnight, but if there is a desire to do that, you got to start somewhere and start learning these things on how others are doing it. So this is where I help people kind of walk through that to understand how could they build that financial freedom in their own lives and sort of sometimes step away from what we are consistently told around how to build wealth, which is actually working against us and controlling a lot of what's happening in our financial lives. We've got to take a look and see kind of how we can maybe flip the script a bit and turn the control onto our side instead of financial institutions. So as is a plug, if you want to meet and talk about, more than happy. But hopefully these 5 areas, it's relationships, connections, your network, your skills and talent, your time, your education and growth, and using other people's money. These are all lever points that you can use in a whole host of fashions, not only to build freedom in your wealth, but in your life, right? And give you more control and certainly ultimately more fulfillment and satisfaction all through life, not having to defer till the later in life, but have it now and live a life you really dreamed of. So hopefully this was helpful, give you some inspiration, things to think about in terms of leverage, and maybe just take 1 or 2 of them and really think about what you could do there. And you'll be shocked at if you start doing more of them, the amount of success and fulfillment you can have above and beyond what you may have today. So hopefully helpful, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for joining me on this episode today. I really am grateful for you as listeners to the Perennial Pride podcast. I hope you're getting some tremendous value out of it and hopefully pushing you along your journey to financial freedom. I put this podcast together really to help you get more educated around your finances so that you feel empowered to live the life that you really want. And if you like the content that you heard today or watched, then I would encourage you to go to my website, perennialpride.com. There's tons of other content there. And you can access my book, Wealth Beyond the Numbers. You can buy it there on my website. It's a aggregation of a lot of great tips and tools I've learned to not only build my wealth in my accounts, but build wealth in my life and abundance and joy, and something that has a lot of my experiences in the journey that I've been on personally. Hopefully that can be also of value to you as you sort of move forward. So thanks again for being a Perennial Pride listener, and we'll see you on the next episode.